My name is Emily Carter. I was 34 years old when my parents threw my 8-year-old daughter out into a violent storm. She spent 3 hours alone in freezing rain, with no shoes, no jacket, and no one to protect her. She was just a child, and that night changed our lives forever. It all began because of a lie told by her 10-year-old cousin, and my parents believed it without asking a single question. I joined the army at 19 because I wanted freedom from a strict home. My father, Robert Carter, was a controlling man who believed children should obey without question. My sister Megan followed his rules and stayed close to him, but I chose a different path. I became a military logistics officer and spent years moving from base to base. Life was difficult, but I learned to survive on my own. Later I gave birth to my daughter Lily. Her father left before she was born, so I raised her alone. She became my whole world. When I got deployed overseas, I had no choice but to leave her behind. My parents offered to take care of her, and I trusted them completely. That trust became the biggest mistake of my life. At first, everything seemed normal during video calls. My mother would always stay in the background, watching. Lily slowly started changing. She became quieter, stopped smiling, and gave short answers. She no longer talked about her day like she used to. Whenever I tried to speak privately with her, my mother would stay in the frame and interrupt. I asked if something was wrong, but I was told she was just adjusting. One day Lily sent me a drawing. In that drawing, my entire family stood together holding hands, while Lily stood alone far away from them. That image stayed in my mind like a warning I failed to understand. I began checking school records and noticed something disturbing. My cousin's son Ethan was always picked up early, taken to events, and treated like the center of attention. Lily, however, stayed in after-school care for hours until someone finally picked her up late. Then one evening I received a call from her school counselor. She told me Lily had become very withdrawn, stopped interacting with other children, and spent most of her time drawing alone. Then she said something I will never forget. My father had told Lily that she was not a real Carter. That was the moment I realized something was deeply wrong, and I started collecting evidence quietly. Days later, my mother's pearl necklace suddenly went missing. Without any investigation, everyone immediately blamed Lily. My father searched her backpack and found the necklace inside. No one asked her side of the story. No one listened. But the truth was far worse. Ethan had secretly placed the necklace in her bag to frame her. That night, everything exploded. My father became furious. Thunder was shaking the house, and rain was falling heavily outside. He shouted at Lily, calling her a liar, while she cried and begged them to believe her. Then he walked to the front door, opened it, and said the words that destroyed everything. "Get out. I don't need a lying granddaughter." My 8-year-old daughter stood there in pajamas, barefoot, and stepped into the storm. The door closed behind her. Nobody followed. Nobody stopped her. Nobody even checked if she was safe. Outside, the storm was terrifying. Rain was so heavy it hurt her skin. Wind pushed her small body as she walked alone on dark streets. A neighbor saw her and immediately called 911. Police searched the area and found her inside a drainage tunnel 4 blocks away. She was shaking uncontrollably, soaked, and barely conscious. She had hidden herself there to survive the storm. Emergency services rushed her to the hospital. She was diagnosed with hypothermia. Everything exploded. My father became furious. Thunder was shaking the house, and rain was falling heavily outside. He shouted at Lily, calling her a liar, while she cried and begged them to believe her. Then he walked to the front door, opened it, and said the words that destroyed everything. "Get out. I don't need a lying granddaughter." My 8-year-old daughter stood there in pajamas, barefoot, and stepped into the storm. The door closed behind her. Nobody followed. Nobody stopped her. Nobody even checked if she was safe. Outside, the storm was terrifying. Rain was so heavy it hurt her skin. Wind pushed her small body as she walked alone on dark streets. A neighbor saw her and immediately called 911. Police searched the area and found her inside a drainage tunnel 4 blocks away. She was shaking uncontrollably, soaked, and barely conscious. She had hidden herself there to survive the storm. Emergency services rushed her to the hospital. She was diagnosed with hypothermia, dehydration, and shock. At the hospital, nurses found her military-dependent ID card inside her backpack. That card had my phone number on it. The hospital called me immediately. I reached the hospital within minutes. When I walked into that room and saw my daughter lying in a hospital bed, pale and trembling, I felt my entire world collapse. She tried to open her eyes and whispered my name. I held her hand and promised her I would never leave her again. While I stayed beside her, hospital staff contacted Child Protective Services. A social worker arrived and began the official investigation. I gave them everything I had collected over months: school records, counselor notes, drawings, attendance logs, and messages that showed clear patterns of neglect and favoritism. My parents arrived at the hospital soon after. My father tried to justify everything, saying Lily had been misbehaving. My mother cried and blamed my absence for everything. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I just stayed calm because the truth was already speaking louder than anything I could say. The investigation quickly uncovered contradictions in their story. Then Ethan finally admitted what really happened. He confessed that he placed the necklace in Lily's backpack, and that his mother had told him Lily needed to learn her place. That confession broke everything apart. Child Protective Services immediately opened a full case. My parents lost custody rights temporarily. Lily came home with me. We moved into a small apartment near my military base. For the first time in a long time, she had a safe room, a soft bed, and peace. No shouting. No fear. Just silence and safety. Months later, supervised visits were allowed. My father sat quietly in those visits, no longer shouting, no longer accusing. He looked smaller, like a man who finally understood the damage he caused. My mother avoided eye contact most of the time. But nothing could erase what happened that night. My daughter still becomes anxious during storms. Even now, loud thunder makes her hold my hand tighter. This story taught me something I will never forget. Children do not exaggerate pain when they are ignored, they become silent. And silence is often the first sign of suffering. Favoritism inside a family can destroy a child's confidence, safety, and emotional health forever. Trust is important, but observation is necessary. Because sometimes the people closest to you are the ones your child needs protection from. If you are a parent or guardian, always listen carefully to your child, even when others say nothing is wrong. Because one ignored warning can change a child's entire life forever.